Picture the ultimate symbol of American childhood mischief, a barefoot kid dodging chores and sprinting toward the river on a long summer afternoon. When Mark Twain published The Adventures of Tom Sawyer in 1876, he packaged it in exactly this kind of nostalgia. He set the story in the 1830s and 40s, along the Mississippi River Valley, creating what looks like a pristine frontier playground. This layout shows exactly how accessible the book is designed to be. It carries a reading ease score of 81.2, roughly a 6th grade reading level, and sits comfortably under subject tags like humorous stories and boys' fiction. But look a little closer at that same catalog, and you find this highly accessible children's book sitting squarely on multiple banned books lists, including the American Library Association's. The metadata tags also take a sharp turn, shifting away from comedy and into subjects like child witnesses and runaway children, culminating in a plot summary about dodging a vengeful killer. How does an easy-to-read comedy about boyhood pranks suddenly require censorship and carry trigger warnings about violent crime? For the first stretch of the novel, Tom and his friend Huckleberry Finn deal with completely low-stakes problems. They trade insults, skip school, and engage in harmless, localized rebellion. Then they decide to take a midnight trip to the local graveyard to test out a superstition. Hiding among the tombstones, the boys secretly witness a violent struggle that ends in murder. The actual killer gets away. He remains free, highly dangerous, and completely unaware that 2 children were watching from the shadows. Gripped by a primal fear for their own lives, the boys are paralyzed. They write out a blood oath to keep their mouths shut, swearing absolute secrecy. But their silence has an immediate cost. The town arrests an innocent man, and he is put on trial for the murder they saw happen. In an instant, the boys are forced out of dodging chores and into an agonizing choice: preserve their own lives or speak the truth to prevent an innocent man from being executed. This layout defines a specific literary term hiding in the book's metadata that explains the shift: Bildungsroman. A Bildungsroman is a coming-of-age story focused squarely on the moral and psychological growth of its main character. To trigger that kind of deep psychological growth, a narrative requires a severe catalyst, an event harsh enough to force the protagonist to permanently abandon their childhood worldview. This graphic illustrates the contrast. We start with the trivial problem of painting a fence, but that is suddenly outweighed by the crushing reality of holding the power of life and death over a man on trial. Twain intentionally uses those early, humorous chapters as structural bait. By establishing such a breezy, carefree baseline, the sudden drop into adult moral complexity feels drastically heavier to the reader. That sharp contrast is the exact mechanism that pulls the audience in, forcing us to experience a jarring loss of innocence alongside the characters. This dangerous blend of accessible youth humor crashing into terrifying adult themes is precisely what makes the book a target for censorship, keeping it highly controversial to this day. Yet, despite its age and its presence on banned book lists, it remains a massive cultural force. This diagram tracks its recent activity on Project Gutenberg, showing it was downloaded over 31,000 times in just the last 30 days. It maintains total dominance across major categories like classics of literature and American literature. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer endures because it refuses to remain a nostalgic playground. It is a masterful psychological trap that places every reader in that foggy graveyard, forcing them to decide when it's time to grow up.